This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. A man has been taken into custody following a 12-hour standoff with police at a Launceston home. Southern Cross News captured the moment the man handed himself over to police following tense negotiations.
Surrounded by tactical police, a man prepares to hand himself over after hours of deadlock in his Prospect Vale home. He puts on his clothes, screaming at the waiting assembly of armed officers. He holds his hands on his head and surrenders on the front lawn. An officer gives the thumbs up to say the lengthy standoff is finally over. Handcuffed, the Special Operations Group escorts him to a police wagon.
Throughout today we've had a number of resources at that address and we've successfully negotiated a peaceful resolution, and that man concerned is now in police custody.
The incident sparked a full-scale response. The tactical unit grew in numbers as the standoff rolled on. Ambulances were on standby. The man inside the home was well known to police. The operation shut down the section of Westbury Road, as the man inside the home had threatened to harm himself and police.
My understanding is that initially he may have armed himself with a pair of scissors, but certainly there were no firearms involved.
The operation involved dozens of police, fire and ambulance personnel, all grateful the 12-hour standoff ended peacefully.
It is always our priority to peacefully resolve incidents such as this, and if that takes, 2 hours or it takes 2 days, then that's what we'll work towards.
Police are yet to lay charges. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The two other innocent men stabbed in yesterday's rampage remain in hospital in Melbourne tonight, one of whom is prominent Launceston businessman Rod Patterson. Reporter Christy Marr joins us now from the Alfred Hospital. Christy, can you provide us with an update on the victims and their conditions?
Good evening, Rachel. The first man stabbed in yesterday's attack was Rod Patterson, a successful businessman and philanthropist from Tasmania who was enjoying a day out in Melbourne with his wife when he heard the car explode. The 58-year-old rushed over to check no one was inside the inferno, and it was then that alleged terrorist Hassan Khalif Shia Ali knifed him in the head. Mr Patterson has undergone surgery here overnight and is now in a stable condition, although loved ones say he is very shaken up by what he's been through. In a statement, his family said they appreciate everyone's support at this difficult time, and our thoughts are with the other victims, families and police officers involved.
And Christy, a security guard who was injured in the attack is also out of surgery.
That's right, Rachel. We know the 26-year-old man from Melbourne southeast was working for JB Hi-Fi when the attack unfolded. He was stabbed, but thankfully is now stable. And of course, we wish both men a speedy recovery. Rachel.
Tomorrow marks one of the most significant dates in war history, the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. Almost a century ago to the day, news began filtering into Tasmania that an armistice had been reached. There was joy and jubilation in every corner of our state, but the recovery was only just beginning. Michael Breen has this special report.
Tasmanians will mark Remembrance Day at services across the state tomorrow. The date a special anniversary, marking 100 years since the end of World War I in 1918. The Australian War Memorial records 15,485 Tasmanians enlisted for the conflict. Local historian Reg Watson says at the time that was a large portion of our population.
Significant because of the enormous contribution and support that Tasmanians gave to the overall effort in World War I, taking consideration, of course, Tasmania was a very small society then.
To mark this year's anniversary, Meredith McQueen researched and wrote a play about the aftermath of the armistice and how the news unfolded here. 100 years ago to the day, Tasmanians were anxiously waiting for news of a potential peace deal. In the evening, the Mercury received a wire from Washington that the armistice was signed. Crowds building outside Town Hall, waiting for official confirmation from the Premier.
He wouldn't come out and announce the signing of the armistice until he heard officially from the Prime Minister, and he hadn't heard and he didn't hear, and this went on for quite a few hours.
As word filtered down, headlines here reading, "World's greatest war is now at an end. Armistice signed. The Germans surrender unconditionally. Victory. The war won by the Allies."
Rumours and gossip went throughout the state that the war is finally over, and instantly masses of people congregated in whatever place it may be, whether it's Hobart, Launceston, Burnie, Devonport, but from Zeehan to the Huon or to the east coast.
Public celebrations continued in the months that followed. Landmarks were lit up, celebrating peace. Massive parades ran through Tasmanian streets. But amid the joy of the end of the conflict, there were still many Tasmanian families feeling loss.
We found a lot of records of letters for many years afterwards. There are horrible stories of desperate mothers writing letters for 5 years back to the War Graves Commission, trying to find the location where their sons had been buried.
For those who did make it back, many were left with psychological scars.
A lot of these men couldn't cope. A number of them, unfortunately, committed suicide, which still happens today from returning service personnel. A lot of men ended up in what we knew then as the asylum at New Norfolk.
100 years on from those scenes on the streets of Tasmania, we continue to mark the anniversary of the armistice on what's now called Remembrance Day. It's a day to remember those who died or suffered for Australia's cause in all wars and armed conflicts. Tomorrow, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we pause for a minute's silence, a century on from when the guns fell silent on the battlefields of World War I. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
And at this time, if you or anyone you know needs help, there is specialist support available from Open Arms Veterans and Family Counselling, or you can contact Lifeline. More than 40 RSL services are being held across the state tomorrow to mark Remembrance Day. A list of those events can be found on the Tasmanian Centenary of Anzac website, and we'll share that list on the Southern Cross News Facebook page. And to mark the anniversary, a special Tasmanian Remembrance concert is being aired on 7/2 tomorrow. Century of Armistice was filmed at the Albert Hall last weekend. The 1 hour special is screening on 7/2, that's channel 62 on your remote from 3:30 p.m. Tasmanians are being given a rare glimpse inside some of our most significant buildings, with many open to the public this weekend. Among them, the Supreme Court and Treasury building, the walls of which witness some of the state's most defining moments.
The place where justice is served. Tasmania's top judge welcoming visitors to Hobart's Supreme Court.
The public should be able to come and see what we do. If people are going to be sent to prison, there should be no mystery about what goes on and how that happens.
Built in the 1970s from local timbers, sandstone and slate.
Had to be non-authoritarian. The public had to feel easy coming to it and being in it. And yet the judge and judiciary still had to have that authority they needed, particularly when they're sentencing people.
This room today home to proceedings of some of Tasmania's most serious criminal cases. This is where a witness will take the stand to give evidence, and here where accused will sit through a trial and learn their fate.
It's a pleasure to work in here. I'm sure justice can be done in ugly buildings, but it's good to be in a beautiful one.
A slice of history with the Treasury buildings. This court was used for civil cases from 1860. The public offices opened for a walk around, including the then Premier's office. Kevin Johns lived downstairs as a child, his father a caretaker.
It is still basically the same as what it was.
The government's previously announced it will be selling the Treasury buildings.
The best collection of Georgian buildings in Australia on this corner. There's a very strong argument that they be retained in public ownership.
It says it's no longer suited as modern and efficient office accommodation, and hopes this weekend will inform conversation, one that's already begun.
It should live. I mean, the history of the town is here, so if it's not used, I think we're all going to lose out.
Open House Hobart has 24 buildings open tomorrow. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
This weekend's State Firefighter Championships have kicked off at Invermay Park. The two-day event seeing 27 junior and senior teams going head-to-head as they prepare for the approaching bushfire season.
There's 11 different events and what those events try and encompass is all aspects of the skills that our volunteers will require on the actual job at structure and vegetation fires. So it's the use of hoses and branches and the use of pumps and other pieces of equipment. So it gives them a real all-round look at the skills they'll actually need on the job.
The championships are expected to wrap up at around 2 p.m. tomorrow. A helipad has been placed on the roof of the Royal Hobart Hospital to be used for patients who are seriously injured or critically ill to access help sooner. Choppers currently land on the cenotaph to then transport patients by road.
We were at risk of not having the needs to be able to support current best practice, current standards of care. I think the helipad lets us do that.
Have better clinical outcomes for patients by getting point-to-point access. We've got a system of helipads across the state now.
The helipad is expected to be operational by mid to late 2019. The Hawthorn Football Club has taken out a major gong at last night's Tasmanian Tourism Industry Awards. It's the first time a sporting club has been recognised in the major festival and events category.
We are trailblazers and we are absolutely committed to doing as much as we possibly can for the people of Tasmania. We dare to be different, that's what the club does.
Launceston's Silos Hotel was named Tasmania's best new tourism development, the Port Arthur historic site winning both the major tourist attraction and cultural tourism categories. A 72-year-old Tasmanian woman is taking to 3 wheels to raise awareness about the Tarkine. Gubby Zhang today set off on her tricycle, starting her 540-kilometre journey from Hobart to a Bob Brown camp in the northwest.
It's under threat from logging and mining, and especially, a lot of the creatures that live in waterways, like the Astracopsis gouldi, which is unique to Australia, doesn't exist anywhere else but in the Frankland River.
Gubby will travel along the east coast and expects to arrive near Smithton on the 22nd of this month. The Hobart public came face to face with dinosaurs today at the Royal Botanical Gardens. Children having the chance to dig for fossils and pat a roaming raptor, while some even dressed the part. The picnic was hosted by the Royal Society of Tasmania, encouraging everyone to learn about the historic creatures.
Well, learning about dinosaurs is fun, but that science, to show that science is interesting and that it is for all ages.
The event marking the Society's 175th anniversary. A new festival in the Huon Valley has made its mark today, with live music kicking on this evening. Revellers can enjoy local culinary treats and performances while taking part in the many activities on offer.
Using old methods to teach new skills. This local woodworking business is one of many stalls sharing tricks of the trade at the Great Huon Valley Festival.
Lots of people keen to have a go, which we're happy about. Yeah, that's what it's all about, is getting engaged and learning by doing.
The inaugural event aimed at showing the public what the Huon Valley has to offer.
We've already been to Frank's and had some cider, and Kate Hill Winery is around the corner from where we live, so we wanted to do some tastings and it's been good.
So, in a nutshell, this is a festival that offers a lot more than just music or just food or just comedy. I tried thinking of fusing all these things together because we have the perfect set for it.
Festival goers can check out some of the state's top woodchoppers, with commentary by Tasmanian world champion David Foster. And for those wanting to chill, a river ride on Australia's oldest running ferry comes highly recommended.
Bought for $1, returned to Tasmania and restored. Restored in an apple shed here in Huon Valley. And she's 153 years old and it's not a replica, it's the real deal.
The gates open for the second day at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Ruby Kamain, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's women's cricket team has made it 2 wins from 2 matches, following a stellar 6-wicket victory over South Australia at the TCA ground. After bowling out the visitors for 157 runs, it took less than 40 overs for the Tigers to reach the target. Georgia Redmayne top scored with 56. Tasmania now has 3 wins from 4 matches in the WNCL season.
Good evening. A few light showers in the west today, partly cloudy elsewhere. Hobart a top of 19 today, Launceston 20, Burnie 18, while Devonport reached 17. 21 the state's top at Friendly Beaches, Campania, Fingal and also St Helens. 19 at Ouse, Flinders Island, Smithton and Grove all 18. King Island, Lowhead and Strawn 16, 15 at Maydena. On the close-up today, low cloud moving across the state from the west. To the satellite, and a broad area of thunderstorms sat over southern WA today. A few thunderstorms along the entire east coast of Australia also, and over the top end. The remainder of the country was mostly cloud-free. Tomorrow, a weak high will sit over Bass Strait and another over the Tasman Sea. A broad trough lies over most of WA, extending through Queensland. Coastal waters, and we're expecting westerly winds at 10 to 20 knots, becoming variable to 10 knots during the afternoon. Swells to around a metre in the east, below a metre in the north, but up to 3 to 4 metres in the west and south. No warnings on to Sunday's forecast. Hobart a fine and partly cloudy day 19. Richmond 20, cloudy day for Ooze 22 the high. Launceston partly cloudy and 22, 18 at Devonport. Fine conditions for Deloraine, a top of 19. A fine 17 for Burnie tomorrow, morning shower for Strawn. A cloudy day for King Island, Curry looking at 17. 18 on the way for St Helens, Swansea 19, White Mark partly cloudy and 18 degrees. The UV forecast with 7s and 8s across the state. Turning to Monday now, and cloud increasing during the day but remaining fine. Tuesday, showers about the west in the morning, extending to the north in the afternoon and to the remainder of the state in the evening. And finally Wednesday, showers in the west, easing in the evening, possible showers elsewhere in the late morning and also the afternoon. Further north, a sunny day for Melbourne tomorrow 23, Sydney fine and 25, 27 for Brisbane and Canberra, Adelaide a sunny 31, Perth partly cloudy with 24 the top. And right now it's 14 degrees in Hobart, 16 in Launceston, Devonport 14 and partly cloudy. Rach, that wraps up the weather. See you tomorrow.
I will do. Thank you for that, Laura. Well, that's all your news for now. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening. Good night.